Hi, everyone. Welcome to the School Community Huddle with Ana Martinez. We have two special guests today. Our show today is primarily focused on social, emotional, and mental health.
My name is Arturo Chavez. I'm a school social worker at a charter school.
Hi, my name is Linda Giordano, and my title at my school is a mental health counselor, and I have background in social work where I received my master's and doctorate in. And I also do a lot of work around trauma, so I offer a lot of different trauma support groups and trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy for students.
So excited to talk to you all today because social, emotional, and mental health is such an important part of what's happening right now in our current context. And I want to transition us to high school. High school is a fun age. You know, they think they're older and grown and they know what to do. How do you even begin the social emotional? Because then there's hormones that are coming into it at play as well, right? Like just like their own changes. Plus, like people miss their friends. 5-year-olds miss their friends. It's normal for them to feel sad. High school people miss their friends. We're social beings. We all want to be around other people. I mean, sometimes we're introverts and we need to be alone, but that doesn't mean I just want to be isolated. So how do you begin to have that conversation with high school students?
And I feel like you just said it right there a little bit, is that it's normal to have these feelings, and they're going to have these feelings. And people, including ourselves as adults, are going to feel a little isolated at times. Social isolation is real and it's impacting mental health. So I think a great place to start, one is, like we said, relationship, right? Making sure that you're kind of starting back in that place. And maybe even acknowledging, if this isn't a conversation you've had before, acknowledge that you haven't had this conversation before, but why you want to have this conversation now, and letting them know how you feel about this topic, and letting them know that it's normal, the feelings they have. And I think similar with how we reference books are always great at any age level. But I also think media right now is a way to connect with high school level students. They're exposed to a lot, whether that's on Instagram. I don't think they use Facebook anymore, TikTok. So all of these different platforms that, you know, they're seeing what's going on. They're seeing how people are impacted. They're seeing these current events that are really, you know, basically traumatic to witness, and possibly even more traumatic for those who already have past trauma or they personally connect with what they're seeing online. So when these things are trending, when you see that this stuff is out there, I always recommend to limit how much, you know, youth are seeing, but sometimes that's really difficult as they get older. And so knowing that, I think it's really important to sometimes bring up those conversations yourself, so that way they're having the conversation with a trusted adult and not just seeing the things that they might be seeing online or being talked about with their friends, but having someone who has some knowledge or someone that they trust to engage in that conversation.
Another thing, definitely I agree, is also realizing that middle school, high school age students are not going to be as open as elementary school students. Parents often sometimes come to us and they tell us, oh, well, all they want to do is be in the room, and just, like, they don't talk to anybody anymore. They're just kind of isolated. Sometimes the parents come and think that the students are depressed. But then when we kind of like start talking to the student, they're doing their own thing with their friends. They're talking to their friends on social media. They're still being connected. But just acknowledging that the relationship with your kids is going to change as they get older, especially middle school. I know we're talking about high school students, but middle school students is probably a harder age than high school, because they're changing. A lot of the fifth graders that are now sixth grade are having a difficult time because they thought they were going to go to middle school, and now they're at home having to do sixth grade at home. So there's a lot of firsts that they're missing out on. Their bodies are changing, their minds are changing. So definitely, if your son or daughter, your child is isolating, not necessarily take it right away as like there's something wrong. Definitely start having those conversations. And if it's the first time, like Linda mentioned, acknowledging that, like, hey, you know what, like, we've never talked about how you're doing, but this is why I want to start talking about it now. And don't stop after one conversation, because if you stop, they're gonna see it as like, well, that didn't last long, or that wasn't genuine. Like they wanted something out of that conversation. So it's probably going to be a lot of work for the parents to do. And the kids are going to see that eventually after you have that difficult conversation once, twice, three times, and it just become routine, the kids are going to see it as like, okay, this is part of what we do now. So don't take it as like your kid is isolating because something is wrong. Right now, everybody's isolating. A lot of people are struggling, and then just checking in how they're connecting. So if they're connecting by playing video games and talking to their friends on video games, that's fine. If they're on social media connecting, but I definitely agree with taking that social media break, taking time offline, taking time from watching the news. I know when in March, that's all I was doing, basically 24/7 almost. I was very paranoid about everything going on with the coronavirus and all this, that I just needed to turn off the TV and just rest, and that helped my mental health a lot. So I definitely recommend that if it's not planned, like make it planned and incorporate that into their day.
Yeah, I like the idea of mental health break from social media and television because I think one, you got to process all the information and then control how much information is coming into your mind. I want to end the day with attendance. I know that's something that Linda, you do focus on, not so much you, Arturo, but it's tied to social emotional. Now many districts, because of the state requirement, are expected to be taking attendance online and submitting that attendance. So students are expected to be at school via Zoom or whatever platform, and we're going to be taking attendance. So if it was hard in the spring, it was hard for all of us, even people going to work, to get up every morning, to get dressed, to be in a place where you can like be on Zoom, which is like a new platform. How can we start just supporting our children, high school, elementary, middle school, to be attending school every day via Zoom?
Yeah, via Zoom is definitely a little bit different, but as far as just attendance itself, and that goes for both in person and virtually, setting up a schedule is one of the most helpful things, a routine at night, a routine in the morning, and just a schedule they follow. Kids do well with knowing what's ahead or knowing a structure that they're used to. And in school, we have a very clear structure, right? Like this time they're in this class, this time they're at lunch, and this class is at this time. So if you could provide some outline to a schedule for them, I think that helps. Knowing though in virtual learning, that's difficult sometimes, and being flexible with that, but kind of having something there to help guide them and having the routine. We've talked a lot about sleep, right? The routine with sleep, making sure you're kind of going to bed the same time every night, waking up the same time. Those things really help to make sure that they're fully ready to be an active participant in school that day. And if they're struggling with attendance, if you notice your child is struggling, if you yourself feel like you're struggling, I encourage you guys to reach out to the schools. The schools want to help. We're here to support when it comes to attendance. And we know that there's a lot going on, especially right now being at home, and there might be multiple kids working from home at the same time. And you might also be working from home and trying to do your job. And so we get that, we understand that. And so the schools want to support you. And so if there's something we can do, please reach out to your school admin or your counselor, and they're there to provide resources.
I also wanted to add that every school, every district should have a homeless foster youth liaison. And if you're a family that is going through a transition where you might have lost housing, or you're temporarily maybe staying over at a family or a friend's house, reaching out to that homeless liaison within your school, within your district, because not sure if every school, but at least our school does, and we have funds available. We have not a lot, but we do have funds available for resources. Or if it would be regularly like going back to school, we could provide uniforms, we could provide backpacks, we could provide supplies, things like that. I know right now our school is every child is going to get a Chromebook. They're getting a Chromebook and they're getting a hotspot. So those are things that are probably going to get in the way of attendance. So if you don't have a Chromebook or a hotspot, you're going to be absent every day. So kind of making sure that you reach out to the staff to figure out what is that policy for the school. Sometimes I've been finding out that there's different policies regarding attendance. So if a student turns in work, that's counting as attendance for some schools. So just figuring out what is attendance look like at that particular school, and definitely setting up a schedule for the little ones. I would suggest doing a visual schedule of how their day is going to look, because they're used to having their board and kind of like being colorful and all those things, and the teacher kind of moving the clip, but okay, we're going to go to recess now, we're going to go to lunch. And that could be part of something that you do as a parent at home, kind of having a visual schedule for your kid.
Yeah, a schedule helps a student and myself or an adult just feel some sense of normalcy in a time that doesn't feel normal and is changing. We might not go back to how things used to be exactly the same, right? Some things might change, some things might go back. But a schedule right now that you're in control of gives you a sense of control, gives you a sense of normalcy for you and your child. So if you post it, that'll also help. And for those of you that are finding that you're always like, it's 10 o'clock, get on your Zoom, it's 9 o'clock, do this, like, it'll alleviate you that burden, because eventually the kid knows every day at 9, you know to do this, and it helps create that independence. And that's something that's also being said in the other episodes with teachers. And if you are families going through it and you just need resources, reach out to the schools. The schools have funding to help with homeless youth, with homeless families, and with all these other resources that you can just get if you ask. I know that it's hard, and it's hard to trust and sometimes be vulnerable, but if you do trust one person in the school, maybe that's where you can start. And I appreciate Arturo and Linda for being here today. Parents, if you have any questions specifically around social emotional learning, therapy, resources that you need, please put it in the chat or DM me, and I will help you out, because I want to make sure that this information is going to the people who need it the most. And we want to make sure that we are helping each other out. Once again, Arturo and Linda, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.